one of the other survey results we got, and it was more for boys, but they said the biggest myth or misconception was that their kids are just bad, that they're just bad kids, or that they're just choosing to act out. And so one of the questions that we received from a parent was what they can do when they see that their educators, their child's teacher is not offering equal treatment in the class, that they're not supporting their child in the way that they feel is appropriate. How can they better advocate with for their child and kind of build those that buy-in atmosphere that you spoke about?
Okay, so, and that's a very good question. I'm glad they asked, because again, just going back to that systemic racism with the school to prison pipeline, and how often our young males are diagnosed with emotional disturbance disorder, or even the oppositional defiant disorder and conduct disorder. This right here definitely is one of those things that leave a great concern for parents in getting their sons diagnosed in the first place. But I want to say we definitely want to start off with education and awareness. Sometimes we have to educate our teachers, and we have to educate them in a different way when it comes to discussing our children. So we have to start off with a positive light. And let me just go back. We have to educate ourselves about some of the symptoms that we have noticed, so being open to see, okay, something is definitely going on, maybe even journaling or writing down the things that you have noticed or the things that you have seen your son experience, and say, okay, maybe it's time for me to start creating a journal so that I can share this, or maybe even talk to the doctor about it. So educating ourselves first, and then educating teachers in the educational system and about what you have noticed. It's okay to share personal experiences. Sometimes we try to hide all of that. Again, going back to not being viewed as normal. So we don't want to talk about things that we feel that other parents may not be going through, especially to a teacher. We want our teachers to look at our children as if they're just as bright as the next child. And so we don't want to put any labels on them, going backwards. And so being okay to share those personal experiences about things that's going on at home. I know when I'm working with a lot of parents in my office, a lot of times they'll say, well, I didn't notice that. No, that's never happened. And so sometimes I have to go through one of those cultural sensitive assessments, and I have to say, okay, what about these times? So I have to spend a little bit more time with the parents, or even send them away with a questionnaire that shows, and say, okay, I want you to look at this week. I want you to kind of, pay attention to these things and see if this is happening when he's with you versus what he's doing at school. I would also say seek professional opinion. Again, we seek things from our extended family, from our friends, from our spiritual advisors, our coaches, but seek professional experience. Find someone who is fluent in ADHD, who knows what's going on, and talk to them about the situation, and let them help you gain some perspective and process, all of the questions and things that you're experiencing. And then last but not least, just try to connect with support networks. And so and I'm not being paid for this, but CHAD is a great organization that has a lot of resources for parents, for professionals, and they are definitely promoters of ADHD. They even have a parent-to-parent class where you can take that help you as a parent understand maybe what ADHD is and what your child is going through. And then there are support systems in each state, different chapters. And if there's not a chapter in your area, you can get involved and start a chapter, but being aware of everything helps you to better advocate for your child.
Absolutely. And, we did receive kind of a question on the flip side to this from a teacher. And she wrote in looking for advice on how to have conversations with families to address some of the negative mindsets around what their child should be able to do when it's actually an area negatively impacted by ADHD. So expectation setting and understanding what symptoms are. And she writes in, I'm white, and I know that Black families have a lot of reasons not to trust me initially. They're justified in their concerns that I'm biased. Mm-hmm. How can I better communicate? Or are there resources that I can point them to that would perhaps be more trusted?
Great question. So as an educator and definitely as a non-African American educator, I know sometimes things can be difficult. And this conversation is a very difficult conversation. And so we want to, when conversing with African American parents, we want to make sure that they are aware that we are an ally, that we're there, we're standing with them in the gap. We want to make sure that we, number one, build that trust and relationship. That's most important. I did a study a couple of years ago about ADHD in the classroom and how teacher training can improve self-efficacy for the teacher. And so what was found is that when teachers are unaware of the different aspects or the different elements of ADHD, it decreases their self-efficacy, which means that sometimes they may have imposter syndrome about what's going on with the student. And so they have to first confront their biases, their unconscious biases that they may have in order to help that child get the services that they need. And so if you're not comfortable with talking about it, and especially not talking about it with an African-American parent, then maybe starting, I'm going to say the same thing, like educating yourself, getting that teacher training, even just participating in things like this so that you can become aware of all of the cultural biases and all of the misconceptions and stigma helps you be able to have that conversation. And then finding that person within the school that parent has a relationship with, whether it's the PTA president, whether it's the school counselor, whether it's the principal, the secretary, whoever it is, finding that particular person to say, hey, I'm struggling with this parent and I really want some help. I want them to know that I'm on their side. And here are some things that I have identified. How can we help this parent see that, this is not a negative situation and this child can overcome this. But first, we need to take these steps to do it.